One of the most beautiful wonders of this world is Patagonia, Argentina, which we will be traveling through. Touring emblematic landscapes, as well as the diversity of fauna. The relief that characterizes this part of the country makes it very different from many places, and we will start to get to know them now. Puerto Madryn is a city in the northeast of the province of Chubut, Argentina, capital of the Piedmont department. It is located facing the Argentine Sea in the Atlantic Ocean. It is considered the gateway to the Valdez Peninsula, declared a World Heritage Site by UNESCO in 1999. It is one of the most important tourist centers in the entire region and the country, also considered the national capital of diving. The name of the city commemorates Love Jones Parry, Baron of Madryn in Wales, one of the promoters of the Welsh colonization in Patagonia. The name originated in early 1863 when Love Jones Parry, accompanied by Lewis Jones, traveled to Patagonia on board the ship Candelaria to decide if that region was suitable for a Welsh colony. In July 1880, the then colonel of the Argentine Navy, Augusto Lasalle, set sail from Buenos Aires on board the steamer Piranha with the mission of carrying out a study of the Nuevo Gulf in order to choose the most suitable site to build the port for the Welsh colony, since the mouth of the Chubut River did not provide the necessary conditions. In September of the same year, Lasalle submitted his report to the Ministry of War and Navy, attaching the plan of Puerto Roca prepared by the engineer Don Jorge Bronsted and according to the observations of the Corps of Officers of the ship. The toponym Puerto Roca thus appeared on maps and reports of the Argentine government for several years. Governor Luis Jorge Fontana also mentioned Puerto Roca. The studies of the Argentine Navy determined that the appropriate site to build a port for the colony was south of Punta Galentz and before Punta del Este. In November, the National Executive Branch ordered the authorization of Puerto Roca, establishing that warehouses be built and that a line of cars be enabled for the transport of merchandise to the Chubut Valley. Then the first materials arrived from Buenos Aires for the warehouses and other facilities, along with 10 workers in charge of the construction tasks. Due to the lack of communication with the colony in the valley, the lack of food and drinking water, and the fact that there was no transportation service for merchandise by car from the colony to the port, the dismantling of the warehouses was ordered. Part of them were used to build the headquarters of the prefecture of Madryn, and the rest was used in Rawson. The indigenous Gunnan Acuna people, incorrectly called Northern or Pampas Tehuelches, called this place Kabubu. The beginning of what later became the city occurred on July 28, 1865, when the first contingent of 150 Welsh people arrived on its shores on the sailboat Mimosa. The settlers could not stay there because they had no drinking water. They left in search of better conditions towards the Chubut River. The settlement only grew in the 1880s as a result of the arrival of the railroad, which connected it with Trelew. During the first years of the decade, the Argentine government requested the construction of warehouses in the port. Monument to the Welsh woman, in the center of the city facing the coast. In 1886, the Chubut Central Railway was started, and in 1888, the construction of the railroad that linked Puerto Madryn with the city of Trelew was completed. And in 1888, the labor of Welsh, Spanish, and Italian immigrants was mostly involved. The Puerto Madryn station was very important and had several facilities such as large sheds, warehouses, railway sidings, and workshops. The growth of the city was due to the development of railway and port activities, which supported the service sector, such as warehouses and shops. The line had its head office in the city, and since nationalization, the national company Ferrocarriles Patagónicos also had its headquarters here. As early as 1888, Luis Jorge Fontana had called the attention of the Minister of the Interior to the need to reserve land in Puerto Madryn in view of the future importance that the railway would acquire. He suggested that precautions be taken to prevent the company from taking over and monopolizing the land adjacent to the port, and that it be granted only the lots necessary for the station, workshops, warehouses. Otherwise, the government will later be forced to expropriate these lands for a much higher value, to outline on them the town that will undoubtedly have to be located at that point. The first urban layout of Puerto Madryn, ordering the construction of the city, was carried out around 1906.7 by the English engineer Alan Lee. By 1961, the railway was closed permanently. However, changes continued in the 1970s. When customs duties were lifted, the maritime companies operating in the port disappeared. Thus, tourism emerged as a source of income for an area that until then had not been considered part of the traditional tourist circuits. New industries were also established at this time, such as the Allure aluminum plant. These changes produced a large growth in the stable population and increased the provision of services to the region. Puerto Madryn is located in Chubut within the New Gulf, which is formed by the Valdez Peninsula and Punta Ninfas. The landscape is plateau-like, with cliffs and pebble and sand beaches forming on the coast. Due to its geographical location, the city's climate has the arid characteristics of the region, tempered by its proximity to the sea and by its location downwind of the last step of the Patagonian Plateau. In the heart of Patagonia, on the shores of the vast Atlantic, lies Puerto Madryn, a place where nature and ocean meet in a timeless dance. But behind the beauty of this town, there's a legend, whispered through generations, of the ancient guardians of the waters. Long ago, the native Tehuelche people lived in harmony with the sea, believing that the waters of Puerto Madryn were alive, watched over by mystical creatures. These guardians, known as Notons, were said to be ancient spirits, protectors of the whales, dolphins, and the countless marine creatures that graced these shores. The Tehuelche would share stories of the Notons, who ensured that the waters remained pure and undisturbed. They taught that the sea was not only a giver of life, but also a fragile treasure. If ever the waters were harmed, the Notons would grow restlessly, and the balance of nature would be lost. Today, as Puerto Madryn flourishes, this legend continues to inspire the town's commitment to protecting its waters. The whales that migrate to its shores are seen as a symbol of the enduring bond between humanity and the ocean, and a reminder of the duty we all share to be modern-day guardians of the seas. Through sustainable practices, marine conservation, and respect for nature, the people of Puerto Madryn honor the legacy of the Notons, ensuring that the crystal waters of this Patagonian paradise remain vibrant for future generations. Let the legend of Puerto Madryn remind us all, the ocean is not just a resource, but a living being we must cherish and protect. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave your comment on the part you liked or were most interested in, so we can continue to provide better content for you. See you soon.